Greetings and welcome to this special four-part series of Association Matters entitled Europe Insights on this official PCAAE web podcast for conversations on governance, leadership, and impact in the association sector. We are your hosts. I'm Bobby.
And I'm Emily. And the topic for today's podcast is governance models for European associations. In this first episode, we focus on governance. European associations often bring together members from multiple countries, cultures, and regulatory environments. How do they structure their boards? How do they ensure transparency and accountability? And what lessons can we learn for here in the APAC region?
So our guest is Paolo Falcioni. I hope I pronounce your last name good. Who is the Director General of the Home Appliance Europe. Based in Brussels, Paolo leads an association that represents the giants of the household appliance sector across the continent. He joins us today to share his insights on how European bodies balance multinational interests with streamlined decision-making.
In his position as Director General, Paolo focuses on improving the association's visibility and effectiveness within Europe and internationally. To that extent, he has been one of the founders of the International Roundtable for a Household Appliance Manufacturers Association, bringing together representatives from the home appliance industry across continents to discuss global challenges, including sustainability and innovation. He is one of the steering committee members for the Coalition of Energy Savings and a multi-stakeholder group aimed at improving energy efficiencies across Europe. He is also one of the board members of Smart Energy Europe, Smart EN, fostering demand-side management to help consumers reap the benefits of the new energy market, and he is also co-chair of the European Society of Association Executives Community on Governance and Diversity, Equality and Inclusion. Wow, you are a very busy man.
So, hi, Paolo. Excellent bio, and we're delighted to have you with us in this podcast. So, let's start our conversation. From your perspective, how are governance structures typically designed in European associations with multinational membership?
There are different solutions that have been put forward in order to help associations take the benefit out of the multinational companies that are part of it. In our case, at APPLiA, Home Appliance Europe, we have a two-layer membership structure. On one side, we have companies like the giant that you mentioned, and I would go from A, Ariston Group, to V, Vorwerk, with anything that is in between, without making a distinction between good guys and bad guys, because all are good guys to me.
Right.
And on the other side, we have national associations across Europe, like we have GFAM in France, ZVI in Germany, APPLiA Italia in Italy, and so on. And that dual structure shapes everything about how we govern ourselves. On top of this, we have also associate members, so members that do not have a manufacturing facility in Europe, but we like to hear the view of everybody who is in the home appliance domain. So that is the dual layer membership structure. And then we have the board that brings everything together. In the board, seats do reflect the weight of each member. So larger companies and larger national associations, they do have more influence. But the culture that we bring forward is pretty much a culture of consent. So we like to represent the view of the industry as a consensual voice. And actually, we have also a very high regard to minorities. And it does not happen that larger companies actually outweigh the voice of the minority. So it is a pretty much delicate balance between representing the voice of everybody without having only the biggest companies to shape the voice of the association. So there is a lot of real negotiation going on before we can express a voice as the voice of the home appliance industry in Europe. And then there is the team of 20 that I'm really happy to lead, because whatever we do, it is a joint work of the entire team. Everybody has a voice, everybody has a role, and the culture of working together is something that I'm really happy to foster and to lead in the association.
Thank you for those insights, Paolo. That's definitely there's many layers to that approach, and there's many complexities, I'm sure, that come with that. But it sounds like it's really transparent and thought through as well. Our next question is, what governance practices do you think ensure accountability and transparency? Maybe you could cite an example or a story.
Well, accountability to me has two dimensions. There is the accountability toward our members and outward toward the policymakers we engage with. Internally, our accountability is to the General Assembly, which is the governing body of the association, because being a trade association, the board is only representing a part of the General Assembly. So in our case, the board, it is setting the strategic orientation of the association, but then all decisions are taken at the General Assembly level. Externally, transparency, it is actually a non-negotiable asset working in Brussels. There is a transparency register where we have to share with everybody the number of people that are active in lobbying, the amount of money that we spend in lobby-related activities. And then I think it is a very healthy situation because it forces you to share whatever you do. And there is no hidden agendas because everybody knows where does the money come from and who is the sector that we are representing. But we, as everybody else that sits around the table. And of course, the third element of accountability, it is the credibility that you build over time. And that is, to me, the most important asset that we have in representing each stakeholder around the table. If I said something in one day and the opposite the day after, I would not live long in Brussels. I mean, we thrive because we actually put our face where our beliefs are. And that I think it is one of the most important element in the job that we make.
Right. So yeah, internally, externally, and I agree with you about your credibility capital for APPLiA. So that's very important. So Paolo, our third and final question is, what lessons can you think Asian associations adopt from the European governance models?
It is always difficult to give a recommendation to somebody else because
Understand.
because first of all, we live in a completely different world,
Right.
different situations, different political structures. So it's honestly extremely difficult. But I would try to limit my humble recommendation to things that work to me everywhere. The first, it is a professional secretariat, which is something that not everybody has the opportunity to have, and sometimes there are rotating chairmanships, rotating secretariat, but having a professional secretariat gives something more to the association because it allows continuity over time. It allows keeping the knowledge in a group of people that can actually help frame better the request of the industry of a professional association that is if that is the case. The second, it is to engage with regulators as early as possible. When a proposal is already public, then it is often too late to make sure that all stakeholder views are properly incorporated. So as long as there is a hint that something is boiling on the regulator kitchen, then we should be ready to enter our own ingredients to make
Right.
sure that the final dish is prepared with everybody's ingredient. That is
Mm.
the recipe that I would share. And the third, it is to embrace diversity in governance, because every small or big, large component in the association brings diversity. In our case, diversity is diversity in member states, in different headquarters of companies, different business structure. But all this diversity is extremely important to understand and to embrace, because that enriches the association.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your insights. I do believe that there are some great takeaways for Asia and even our global audience there. I am a strong believer that there's always something we can learn from everybody globally in the association space. So thank you for your time and for sharing your thoughts and your experiences. As always, we wrap up for our listeners today with 3 key takeaways, and I'll do my best for all the information you have shared. So, the first thing I got there was one thing that really stood out for me from this discussion is that the strong governance in associations isn't really about who has the most power, it's about how you bring different stakeholders together around a shared direction. So in the European model that you touched on, there was multinational companies, national associations, different cultures represented, all involved and in consensus. So that becomes very important, that consensus and shared direction. I think it's a great reminder for associations everywhere that good governance is just as much about relationships and alignment as it is about structure. Number 2 is I thought the conversation around accountability and transparency was a really powerful one, particularly the idea that accountability has to work both ways, so internally, but also externally on those transparency registers. Internally, I'm sure those members need to genuinely feel represented and involved in shaping the positions. And externally, regulators and policymakers need to trust that the association is being transparent and consistent with who it represents. I'm sure that over time, that credibility becomes one of the association's most valuable assets. And third and final, one lesson that I heard there was the European approach it's really valuable to invest in a professional secretariat that you touched on, and that really helps with taking the long-term view of engagement. So associations become more effective if they have dedicated people building institutional knowledge, maintaining that continuity, and also I heard they're engaging with policymakers early rather than too late. Like you said, we want to know when something's starting to cook before it gets in the pot for the boil. We want to be there. We want to be speaking to people, and that comes down to network human connection. Combine that with diverse representation across members, it can create organizations that are not only more resilient, but also, I'm sure, are far more influential over time as well.
Thank you.
Good
Excellent.
summary. Thank you.
Excellent summary again, Emily. And thank you again, Paolo, for gracing our podcast. We're very much happy for your sharing. And also thank you to the audience for joining us in Association Matters, where governance, leadership, and impact come together. Because we believe that when associations thrive, societies rise. So this podcast is brought to you by the Philippine Council of Associations and Association Executives, members, and pricing for associations.
Join us for our second episode of Europe Insights as we explore leadership in multicultural association environments. Subscribe to our podcast and visit the PCAAE website for updates and full episode notes. Until next time, thank you, Paolo.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.